All right, so it's now time to apply what you learned in the Soft Talk module that added to your foundation of knowledge with respect to argument and argument analysis. So as you can see, I have the notes back out that we started in a previous week or task. So you'll need to pull out your handwritten notes again. If you did not complete this part of a previous lesson, if you don't have this, that's because you didn't do a lesson or you didn't submit it. So what you'll want to do is pause the video and copy everything you see, realizing that you may not completely understand everything if you did miss the video lessons. Also, you don't have all of the context for the notes, and you'll just have to do as well as you can. All right, so I'm going to actually move this page. So as you know, we have these pages right here, and we're going to actually add a page. So we have 1, 2, I think I told you in a previous lesson to have a page with the number 3 on it. And the topic for this page is going to be eliminating excess verbiage. So everything on this page is going to be focused on making sure that you know what it means to eliminate excess verbiage as you were taught in the argument module for this lesson. So remember, in clarifying arguments, you want to isolate the premises and the conclusion, and we have already practiced doing that. Then you want to eliminate excess verbiage, and we'll be going over the examples in our arguments and hence recalling lessons from the respective Soft Talk module. The other thing that we want to do, you'll remember, is employ uniform language. So I'm going to say employing uniform language. And this is page 4, by the way, so let's put a 4 like that. Employing uniform language and reformatting. So this terminology should sound familiar to you because these are terms that were covered in the Soft Talk module. Okay, where am I? Here I am. So hopefully this software has been kind of wonky with the sound linking up with my lips. I am going to turn this part off in a minute, but I thought I would just pop up. I will get rid of this screen video because I don't like the way the voice file goes with the image when I do this too long. But what I do want to just do is a quick review. So as you know, you've now learned about something called argument clarification. And remember, an argument that is clarified is one for which the essential core logical features have been made explicit, right? And the way that we do that is we isolate the premises and the conclusion. We figure out what those are, and we've already practiced doing that. We eliminate excess verbiage. As you will recall, there are several different kinds of excess verbiage, and in this lesson or series of lessons and in our examples, we are going to be reviewing what kinds of excess verbiage can be eliminated, and I will also introduce to you or elaborate on some excess verbiage not covered in the module. We'll also go over employing uniform language and reformatting arguments in paragraph form. So with that said, I'm going to turn off that part, there we go, so that we can get started on applying and learning more about and from that which was covered in your last Soft Talk module for the semester. So we're going to start with our examples. So you'll need to get this wonderful little document out. This is one that we worked on last time. Remember, I had a note that said if you don't have a printer that you had to hand copy all of this. Remember, I said that you should leave this empty. Remember, I said we're going to write a lot of stuff here. So hopefully if you did handwrite these, you left space on the page to do quite a bit of writing. So with that said, we're just going to jump into the demonstration, application, and lectures associated with what you learned in your last Soft Talk module on argument analysis. So let's start with this argument. We've already applied principle 1, content principle 1 of clarifying an argument. That is, we've identified any premises and the conclusion. Again, remember we're working with simple arguments. Remember that simple arguments are those which have only one conclusion. Principle 2, recall, is eliminating excess verbiage. So you might want to write down some examples of excess verbiage. So I'm not going to write down the examples because they are in the lesson. Hopefully you took some notes and you have those. But remember, there are things called discounts, assurances, and hedges, or hedging, assuring, and discounting. Other words for those are assuring, certainty, doubt, doubt or hedging, and then rejecting or discounting. Okay, so let's go to our notes. So we are going to write down notes. Well, first let me show you what I want you to do, okay? So when we eliminate excess verbiage, we're definitely going to get rid of those kinds of things, but we're also going to get rid of other things. And the way you're going to demonstrate to me that you do know how to do this is we're going to do some additional markup within this argument. And we'll write notes for this in a minute. First, I want you to see it. Then we'll write down what rule or expectation is expressed in the demonstration in this visual. So here it says, I have come to the conclusion that. All of this is basically a really long conclusion indicator. When we are getting rid of excess verbiage, we will include premise and conclusion indicators. Hence, we are going to get rid of this entire phrase right here. You will do that by drawing a line through the statement. Do not completely cross it out, because especially when you're working on your own arguments, I need to see what it was that you crossed out to know whether you should have crossed it out. So do not cross it out completely to where I can't see it. Don't do anything to hide it. You want to just draw a line through it. Okay, so then we've got the core of the statement, and there's an I right there, but I accidentally put the opening bracket on it. So notice that I did not put the opening bracket around that, because if I had put the opening bracket around that, I would have created a sentence fragment. So make sure that you have drawn a line through that as well. Now it says, my reason for thinking, okay? So my reason for thinking, that is a premise indicating phrase. So we have to cross out, not just reason. Sometimes people will do that. They'll cross this out and then they'll leave this stuff here. But you can't do that. You have to cross out the entire premise indicating phrase. So we're going to I shouldn't say cross out. Let's do a strike through. I'm going to try to use that language. We're going to strike through or draw a line all through this. Then we're left with a core statement. This is true. Okay? Then we want to get rid of is that. And then we have what? Free will. There's no other language to get rid of. This says, my wearing a mask is something I am voluntarily choose to do. Okay, so notice how I did not get crazy with drawing lines through excess verbiage. Let's go ahead and go to the page of notes where we write rules and lessons and whatnot down. Okay. So, draw a line through the following kinds of EV from now on will mean excess verbiage unless otherwise indicated. Remember to write everything down that I write down, and remember to write small so that we have a lot of room to take notes. Okay, so you'll remember that in your lesson you learned about assuring and certainty. So those are phrases or sentences that tell us that a speaker is very confident in what they're about to say. You have, what is the other one that you have? Hedging and doubt. Okay, so remember that's a phrase or sentence or word that indicates that a person has some uncertainty or has some reason to believe that they could be wrong, but they think they could be right as well. Then we have what? Discounting. Okay, we'll just use discounting. So these are definitely kinds of excess verbiage that we're going to want to draw a line through. And the line through a word, a phrase, or a sentence, because an entire sentence can be one of these, will mean that that's excess verbiage. So a line through words means excess verbiage. Okay, so we're also going to draw a line through premise and conclusion indicators. Okay, now sometimes some will be only one word long. Others will be phrases, but not necessarily complete sentences. Still others could be an entire sentence. Okay, some are in the form, remember you can pause this video to stop and take notes and catch up. Some are in the form of a question. All right, so speaking of questions, we are also going to count as excess verbiage and hence draw a line through anything that is not a statement. So this is where it becomes really important to review that definition and recall my little mini lectures and iterations on how we're using the word statement. That is not a statement, so we're going to draw a line. So all of this is about drawing lines, right? Just remember that. These aren't just, these bullet points follow from this phrase up here. Draw a line through the following kinds of excess verbiage. So anything that is not a statement. So remember the different kinds of non-statements that we learned about. So that means, for example, questions, some of which might be premise or conclusion indicators, commands, and then sentence fragments. I'm going to give you an option. So if you come across a sentence fragment in your own argument that you're analyzing, you should cross it out because it's not a statement. But if it's just a tiny fix to turn your sentence fragment into a complete sentence, then go ahead and just make that correction. You can make tiny little changes like that. You might want to add that as a note that you can, you could put it like right here. It might help you in future graded assignments. So you might want to pause the video and write that down. I said might, you don't have to. Okay, another thing that was briefly mentioned, but I don't think you got any examples for, but you'll get examples for in this lesson, are rhetorical elements that have a psychological goal in getting someone to accept a conclusion, but no logical role. Okay, so as you can see, there's quite a bit that we are going to be eliminating from arguments when it comes to clarifying them and to excess verbiage. And we're going to do so by drawing a line. So I'm going to give you a warning. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Do not get, I'm just going to write this in slang. Okay, so I'm not going to say it in a very academic manner, but I think it will help a lot of you. Do not get too crazy or extreme when trying to apply the content principle of eliminating excess verbiage. Oh, let's use our abbreviation. All right. So stick to the kinds of EV listed above. And I say that because what some students end up doing, and you might want to write this as an additional warning, what some students do later on in the semester is what they try to do is make an argument more concise. And that's not really the goal of getting rid of excess verbiage. And so some students will just find a way to say the same thing but with less words, but that's not what excess verbiage is really about. Excess verbiage is getting rid of language that has nothing to do with the core essential features of an argument's logic. Okay? All right, so that said, another warning that I need to give you is that sometimes students will infer from the lesson on excess verbiage and the examples that we go through that they somehow have failed or that they're manifesting a deficit in their week 2 argument constructions because they have things that we are going to now consider excess verbiage, and that's simply not the case, okay? And this was iterated in this last argument module in Soft Talk. Having hedges and other kinds of excess verbiage like premise indicators and conclusion indicators are wonderful elements to have in your writing when you're doing a paragraph in argument form. You don't want to have this kind of stuff in it when it comes to presenting rational arguments, right? And we'll talk more about that later. But when you're doing an argument in paragraph form, you're trying to be coherent, compelling, persuasive. So you do want premise and conclusion indicators. Hedges are great because then you show that you have some intellectual humility. And discounting, offering discounts, showing that you realize that somebody might object to what you're about to say is a sign of intelligence, nuance, and recognizing that there may be views that differ with yours. So not all of these things are necessarily bad in paragraph form, but remember, what we're trying to do in clarifying an argument is boil it down to its core, its essential logical features. And the things that we get rid of, as wonderful and as necessary as they can be in paragraph form, are not at the core of a given argument's logical features. So make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, so that concludes the opening lecture for our first, for our extended lesson on clarifying arguments. We will now start a new video.